Are we live? We're live. There we go. Hello and welcome back to Paranormal Perspectives. And this is our first live session. We're speaking to Patrick Bateman from the Ghostwriter. Hi, Patrick. How you doing?
Actually, Patrick Bateman is the American Psycho. I am Psycho, but my name's Brian, not
Oh.
Patrick.
I was actually thinking of Patrick, the guy I spoke to a few weeks ago, and I was actually watching American Psycho a few days ago, so that's only kind of fed in my favour. So it is Brian Bateman. So are you related to the fictional character?
I hope not. My God. It's the last thing I need.
This is how these lives goes. It's just an honest view of kind of the paranormal world. So if you just bear with me, I'm just going to do one more check just to make sure we're all working okay, Brian. If you just bear with me.
Right.
Are we ready to go in just a moment? Are we working? Are we working? There we go. Yeah, we're good to go live. So yeah, thanks for your patience, Brian. So like I say, this is our first live session. So I spoke to Brian a few episodes ago about, for one, his book, The Ghostwriter, and also his amazing story going from obviously correct me if I'm wrong here anyway, if I'm phrasing this right, but kind of comedy writing, like just kind of writing in a completely different space, to moving into your new kind of exciting property and then discovering this fascinating history behind it, and then being part of the phenomena that takes place in this property. And since then you've been inspired to write a book and to share this wonderful place that you're part of, really. So what I'm going to do is just pass things over to you, Brian, and just take us through your life in this incredible property.
Yeah, sure. I will kind of start a little bit of background, like you were talking about with me, and what makes this story a little different than a lot of the stories that you might hear. I've been married for 30 years. I have 3 kids. My wife's job, when we started having kids, started taking off, and we decided to keep me as a stay-at-home dad. So I was at home with the 3 kids, which was great. But I was also trying to find something I could do, to make a little bit of money, and something that I would enjoy. So I always loved comedy, and I ended up getting a part-time gig writing for a comedy radio guy in Cincinnati, Ohio, back in the early 2000s. So when he retired in 2007, it was really kind of a bummer, because I had found something I was so passionate about, and I loved writing, I loved creating. It was great to get a little bit of money while I was staying at home with the kids, but when that job stopped, that was the year I actually got a 4-leaf clover tattoo on my wrist. Basically just to, I needed luck at that point in my life to get a new job like that one, and then also it's just a symbol to show that, I'm lucky to be where I'm at. Things could be worse. Just a symbol and a reminder. I don't even know why I picked a 4-leaf clover. Most of my relatives from back in the day are from England and not really Ireland. So I just thought it looked cool, right? So fast forward to when we looked at this house to buy this house. When my wife brought me in, I knew right away that this house was like the one. You just knew it. You had that feeling. I told her, I think I told her I could see myself living here or something like that. She knew like that I loved it. Just, she knows, when I just had that excitement, it just felt like, oh my gosh, this is so awesome. Such history here, and beautiful home, and we've always wanted an old house, and our kids are grown up now, so this is the opportunity, for us to buy the old house. So once we moved in, I started researching the house, and the death I'll talk about first is the one that actually resulted in a book. Was a guy named Harold Monroe that we found out passed away in my family room, which is where I'm standing right now, on March 17th, 1977. which is St. Patrick's Day. And Harold used to write for the New York Times, the Fall River News in Massachusetts, the Denver Post, the San Francisco Chronicle, a bunch of different places. Like I think he worked for the military at one point. But mostly all writing. So, when I found out that a former writer passed away on St. Patrick's Day, and I was a former writer who got that 4-leaf clover tattoo, I went crazy with the research then. After that, I was obsessed with finding out who lived here, who died here, what happened here. And that's when I discovered, the rest of the people that passed away here. So that basically, was the immediate connection. But then I will tell you some of the other stuff. I'm going to start with the front of the house here. I'm going to flip the camera over to the other direction here if I can. Can't see me anymore. How do I do that? Oh no. Do you know how to flip that camera?
Hey Brian, there should be a button on there that should be like a double arrow thing. If not, just physically just turn your camera around and continue.
Okay, I'll do that because I can't see. It's not showing me that anymore. So y'all, can you see?
Yeah, all good.
Okay.
I absolutely love your house.
Thank you. Okay, so this is the family room. So this is where we have 2 documented deaths. The first death took place, like I said, March 17th, 1977. We're not exactly sure where in the room. I suspect it's in this room right here. I can't go in this room right now. My wife's working in there today. So, that room, I'm going to tell you about an experience that I had a few months ago. I was actually with my dog, Molly, and she was on the couch on one side. I was on the couch in the corner, and she started barking. And when she started barking, not like loud bark, she just actually was like a little, like a whimper kind of bark. When she started doing that, she jumped down off the couch and then came into this room and wouldn't come back into that room. This used to be all one giant room. It actually, when the renovator came through, he actually put that wall up right there. So that wall didn't exist. It was just one open room. But yeah, we use it for like the TV room, the office, that kind of thing. So I apologize for the stuff everywhere. We're doing some decorating and we're getting ready to strip the paint off that door and all kinds of projects going on here. So she wouldn't come back in this room. I got my phone. I started recording it. I was calling for her to come back in the room. She wouldn't do it. I posted this on Instagram and TikTok and all those where I'm calling her name and she just would not come back in. So finally later that day, she comes back in and she's on the same part of the couch. I'm in the corner of the couch again. It's quiet. And then we both hear somebody whisper, "Hi." It was like a, "Hi." You could actually hear somebody whisper, "Hi." And she looked at the exact place that she barked at earlier. And that's exactly where I looked, where she barked at earlier. So it was, I'm trying to figure out how to flip. I don't understand what happened to this. It was able to flip like easily, and now it can't flip. Except if I can't see where I'm shooting, it's like weird. Yeah, I don't know why that happened.
Yeah, it's okay.
Does it look okay when I'm showing it? Yeah,
at the moment we can just see you at the moment.
Yeah. Okay. So, but yeah, so she barked. Jumped down, came back, and then when we heard somebody whisper "hi," we both looked at the exact same place that she barked at earlier. So that was pretty wild. And then this spot right here, can you see the coffee table?
Yep.
So on Christmas Day, my family was over. I have 2 grown sons and a grown daughter, and they had their boyfriend and girlfriends over. He had put a water bottle down on the coffee table when he got in, just like a plastic drinking water bottle, like a Dasani, one of those you get at the convenience store. And we were all, I think, in the dining room just doing whatever. But when he went to go home, he went to pick up his water bottle and it was upside down. It was turned on its cap, upside down, still with the water in it, obviously, and the cap on. And, it's like, it's not easy to necessarily just flip it over and just balance it. It's almost like you sometimes have to watch it and balance it. So he picked it up and kind of shook his head and didn't really think anything of it. But I thought my other son did it as a joke, because they know that we've been experiencing some weird things in the house. But long story short, even though I joke around all the time, I made sure that I interrogated them and said, "Look, this is serious. I will tell people this happened, and if it didn't happen, and I find out it didn't happen, I'm going to be pretty angry at you, So they know when I'm serious, and they swore up and down that they did not touch the water bottle at all. So we have had the house investigated twice with a paranormal husband and wife team. And they have a friend who's a medium as well. And I didn't really believe the medium. I will tell you the medium story that made me believe her on the second time they investigated. But the first investigations, she also said that we had something called an elemental in this family room area right here. And she said that the elemental is possibly responsible for turning the water bottle upside down. I'm just trying to get my head around just the other stuff, and let alone the elemental thing. So I haven't even really studied it or read all about elementals or anything. I'm just going to leave
Yeah, to
that
say,
to.
yeah, elementals are something I actually learned something about a while ago. Actually, I think it's my friend Penny, the medium, had a few episodes ago. She has spoken about elemental spirits, essentially being, of course, spirits that were never human, but there are these kind of rich form of energies that come direct from, I don't know, so the ether. Let's just say, kind of so powerful that it then becomes conscious. So there are these things that are just around that we don't fully understand. I've encountered something like that before, but I can never fully explain it myself. So yeah, I mean, I've heard of these around, believe it or not, and they're incredible things, really. So yeah, back to
Yeah,
you. Sorry.
no, that was one where I was like, okay, wait, what? I was like, no way. I didn't believe a word she was saying, especially after she said that. I'm like, this is getting a little too crazy here for me, and so
Yeah,
as I'm
they can
talking
be
about a
pretty
water
powerful.
bottle, talking about a water bottle turning upside down on its own, though, right? Oh, the elemental's crazy, but the water bottle thing, that's cool. But I mean, you know what I mean? It's just like, it's just all kind of like, it's a lot to really process, especially when it's happening in your house. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. So, we've also had some experience with the cat balls that we use. I don't know if this one, yeah, that one's still working. But when you touch them, actually, I've done um, several of these live ghost tours of the house, and I'll do them at just all times of the day and night. It doesn't really matter. And I've had actually these cat balls go off during the tour, and I'll just stop and then just we'll start and focus on the cat ball. But there was one night where it was going off. I was sitting, usually I wrap up the tour and I start it in the family room and I end up in the family room. And I was just sitting here talking about the book, and I think it just started going off randomly. So I started asking, like, after it stopped, I asked it. I said, is this, Alicia, Anna? I went through all these different names of the people that have passed away here, and when I got to Martha, it actually lit up, and when I said Martha, and in this room, that's happened two times with the ball, where one time the ball was on the couch when that happened. The other time the ball was on, we used to have this piece of furniture over where that desk is. And I used to have a cat ball on there that would go off periodically but I do have a video as well when I say Martha of it going off. So, that's pretty much and Martha, don't think I covered her passing. She was the one that I think, I'm gonna come back to me, my beautiful face. She was the one that I think we first found out passed away here before we moved in. I think I was doing like a search or whatever. And I think we came across her obituary from 2009. And she did pass away here Halloween 2009, and also in the family room. So now Martha was married to Harold. So they had been married for since 1957 until he died in 77. And then another gentleman moved in 1984 named Walt with Martha. He was her companion. They never got married, but he he was here from 84 until his death in 2023. And then Martha again passed away in 2009. I think that covers this room though, right here, as far as pretty much what we've experienced. So somebody whispering hi. Oh, my dog too. One night, my wife and I were in the dining room eating dinner right there. And my dog, Molly, who's the rescue, this chair, for some reason, she was staring at this chair and she kept kind of backing up from it. She was just staring into the corner, like looking at the ceiling. And we kept calling her to come into the dining room because, usually when it's dinner time, they're sitting there by the food. And my other dog was in there. He was fine, but she would not come into the dining room. She kept backing away from the chair. And it only happened once that we, witnessed. It definitely was one of those things that kind of, make you wonder of like, what is she staring at? So these are also original to the house. These are the pocket doors that we love. So they used to close these off. The gentlemen used to come into the family room and smoke their cigars and do whatever when the women were in there cleaning everything up. So real fair, huh?
Yeah, Brian, I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is redolent of the era as well, though. You can see how much time has passed, and obviously, the attitudes change over time, don't they? But yeah, the question from Sketchy and Spooky Journeys, and it's just simply the question: are things especially active during Halloween? Do you notice a difference around October the 31st?
So we moved in February of 2024. So we've only been here for one Halloween. And did we notice? No. We did realize that she had passed away here on Halloween, but our neighborhood like shuts down on Halloween, man. It's like the cops close the streets off. Like it's a massive party. So my next door neighbors had a huge party. So I actually wasn't even in the house most of the night. We were actually next door at the party. The only spirits I witnessed that night were Jack Daniels and Johnny Walker and some others, I believe.
Sounds great.
But no, I'm going to pay more attention though. Yeah, like this year, it's still we have the big party and stuff. But no, I think it would be interesting. I was actually kicking around maybe doing a live ghost tour on Halloween night after Halloween. The party is kind of settling down and everything, and maybe just doing, not necessarily like just the tour, but have people also on the other end maybe have some investigative tools and become a part of maybe the investigation through the phone, man. I don't know if you think there's anything to that where sometimes people experience stuff that are we were talking about that before we started recording this about some of the weird stuff I've had happen during podcasts. I don't
it's
know.
quite common. I've had that happen on a few of my episodes where sometimes when we get into very intense conversations where when I speak to some mediums that their guys start to take over them, or if there's some people talk about very intense personal experiences, I've noticed there's issues with audio. And yeah, I mean, at first I just thought it was just technical. I thought, okay, well, we're streaming, so maybe there may be some glitch in the system because, of course, the data being transported can be corrupted over time. But
Right.
I've noticed more and more, I think more recently in my recent episodes, that I'm getting weird voices sometimes. Because even the other day, I did this quite heartfelt video where I was talking about my past. I recorded an EVP of this woman's voice. The only issue is I was sat in my car on my own recording
I
this
heard
video in
that.
an empty car park. So
I heard
still a
that.
mystery to this day. Yeah, so I have a lot of experience with audio. So I tried to split the audio levels, and it was simply at a frequency that my vocal range couldn't reach. I have quite a relatively mid to low voice, and it was at a much higher frequency than mine. So I mean, I can't discount the possibility of it being a glitch or an issue like that. But yeah, I mean, these things happen. So
Yeah,
yeah, so I remember
it's
our last
interesting.
episode we had a few issues.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Something to explore for sure. Because like the story I'm getting ready to tell about this room, we were doing a TikTok live ghost tour, and I had somebody who told me she was like sensitive and whatever, and she actually came up with a name for the supposed spirit that's on the chair. So it's like, I don't know, man. But I'm like, that's kind of cool that she came up with a name. So I call the kid George now, So like she said, his name is George. So he's a boy and his name is George. So he's Boy George. How cool is that, right? Especially for my English friends over there. So, all right. So, all right, let me go back to the dining room here and I will tell you the story of this room. Here we go. So, this chair right here. These chairs are a set that we got from a lady who said they were from the 1830s. They had been in their family for a long time. And then the buffet piece in the middle is actually a piece from England from the late 1800s or the early 1900s, I believe. But when the medium was here, she told us that there's a spirit of a little boy that sits on this chair. And it's funny because we keep these little cat balls out, every now and then on certain places. I usually try to keep one on this chair all the time. I've had one on that chair and it never went off. This chair, for some reason, will go off periodically. And this is the chair, actually, the medium said that she saw the boy. Apparently, according to another medium, the boy's name is George. He's from the 1850s, which is weird because the house that I live in was built in 1911. So is it from the furniture? I don't know. Is it just from another part of this neighborhood? I don't know. That's like, but when you have these investigations, it's cool because like, we try to answer like some of these questions. And will you know for sure 100%? Probably never. But sometimes you do come across some pretty interesting things that you learn after, like the medium tells you something, or and I'll tell you about that experience. I just came across something a couple days ago that was kind of relevant to what the medium was saying during the second investigation about somebody having heart issues. So, but the ball will go off. I'm hoping it will go off now. Sometimes when I say or start talking about names or people, it will start going off. But again, George is the name. And he sits there sometimes and just observes, apparently, just what's going on. So the dining room, as far as George is concerned, is the only spirit that we know of. But the second investigation, not that both investigations were not active. They both were active. Like really, both nights were kind of crazy. First night, I didn't even know what was going on because I didn't, I've never had somebody investigate my house before. So I was just kind of sitting there like, you know, what's that? What's that? The balls are going off and all that stuff. But the second night, they were setting stuff up in here, and their REM pods started going off, and all the others, the other equipment was going off, and then the batteries got drained before they even started. So, and then the medium did say, like, when she comes out of my house, she's physically drained for at least a day, sometimes two. So, so that's the dining room. Any questions on the dining room?
Nothing through the chat at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah, I kind of wonder, like with the dining room in. I kind of wonder, like, do you know if your property is sat on any kind of ley lines that you're aware of?
I'm not aware of that. We
Okay,
are, I told you, on Comanche and land, Comanche Indian territory.
yes.
That I do know for a fact. Um, so, that's why we're going to start maybe exploring in the future a little bit more on that kind of history. And, maybe does that have something to do with the elemental? I don't know, but yeah, I mean, the Comanche literally, roamed the lands here. The buffalo roamed free right through where I live. So then you would have had settlers coming in. Um, See, what basically happened was the government was giving free land out to anyone that wanted it. So the surveyors would go out and they'd survey. Well, they'd be attacked by the Comanche, and like, you know, so after they kept getting attacked, they formed the Texas Rangers to protect the surveyors and then also to protect the settlers. And during when the Rangers were like protecting the surveyors, they kind of learned how to fight the Comanche and learned how they operated and all that kind of stuff. And then the Rangers took on a life of their own, and they were, now they're the Texas Rangers. I'm sure you've heard of the Texas Rangers. It's not just Chuck
Yeah.
Norris, but yeah. So there's like a big, there's a big, history here between the settlers and the Comanche for sure. I mean, there's definitely, probably, I haven't read any major battles between like the settlers and the Comanche or the Rangers and the Comanche in this specific part, but it was all over, I mean, so, you just never know. But that's interesting you say about ley lines and all that kind of stuff, because
Yeah.
I haven't gotten into any of that yet. But when I start telling you about the tragedies on the street and stuff, then you start wondering. I'm sorry about keep turning my camera the wrong way. You start wondering, well, is there something to that, like the curse and the because there's so much stuff that's happened in this neighborhood. Where did I put my water? I'm sorry. I'm gonna talk
Yes,
this much.
yes, I know the religions of days gone by, having these quite intense connections to. I suppose we describe it as the paranormal, though, but some sort of frequency of consciousness. Who knows? But I know people of that belief had that quite strong connection. I wonder if it just leaves, I don't know, resonates some sort of, I don't know, like a rift of some sort, or like almost like an open connection. And yeah, I
Yeah,
think we've
I don't know.
had a few conversations with Christine about that kind of thing. Really, like these people seem to have, like, we always describe it as they had the internet before we had the internet today. Basically, like they had these strong connections. They're able to
Mhm.
communicate with each other, between pretty great distances. So it wouldn't surprise me that maybe a little bit of that, I don't know what you would call it really. Like, I had to use the word magic though, but whatever it is that they had that we've maybe lost a long time ago, is they're still there with you. So I mean, who knows?
All right. Can you see me?
I see. Yeah, I'm very sorry to interrupt you again. Got one more question. Are there any
Yeah, go
rivers
for it.
close by?
Any rivers?
Yeah.
There is the Trinity River, but it's not like a big, massive river. But I mean, yeah, I mean the Trinity. There's some bodies of water, not too far away, I guess you could say. There's Lake Worth, and yeah, actually, Texas has a lot of lakes. A lot of people don't realize a lot of lakes.
Yeah, I wonder because I think they're asking about there potentially being like kind of burial. So excuse me, sorry, burial grounds, arrowheads. It's an evidence of their civilization, kind of elements left nearby, maybe within the ground that could still resonate there, maybe. But yeah, I mean, we always have to consider also electrical input. I see there's like a power socket. I'm assuming it's a power socket. Obviously, correct me if I'm wrong there. Like, there are things like that could affect equipment, but I know there's cat balls. I know that they're acutely sensitive, though. So I know they do pick up a certain amount of frequency and movement and all sorts. But for it to go off regularly, though, is an interesting one because power fluctuates. It changes depending on usage and such. So interesting. I wish I was there, to be honest with you. I'd love to kind of just get a sense of your property because I love kind of picking up on these old haunted properties because they have such stories to tell, really.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
incredible. Okay, don't let me interrupt you again. Yeah, you carry on.
No, moving on to moving on to the kitchen. We'll talk about a few things here in the kitchen. All right, so this is the kitchen. These are the original floors. That actually little space where there was a patch job used to be a chimney there, because the original wood burning stove would have been the pipe would have gone into the chimney, to have the smoke go outside. Probably knocked down in the 20s when they either had gas or electric. I think they had gas after the wood burning, but I'm not sure for certain. But so we were told that there are two spirits in this kitchen, as we know right now. One is called a residual haunt, which is where it's like a tape being played over and over again. That residual haunt, we think, is the Viola Evers. Her last name is spelled Evers. Viola was one of the first to come down to this house. It was her husband, her daughter from a previous marriage, her brother, his wife, and her great uncle Elisha. So they all came down from Indiana. The men got jobs at the railroad, not Uncle Elisha. He was retired. But they literally worked right across the street because we lived right by the railroad yard. So, but Viola we found out she had colon cancer when she lived here. I think her daughter was only like 9 at the time. So they're, probably excited to get down here, start a new life and whatever. But she suffered from colon cancer. And we did find out that she passed away in 1915, not in this house. She actually went to Indiana to see her sister. I think she probably knew she was going to die and probably wanted to go to her home, in Indiana. Went to see her sister, and 2 weeks later died at her sister's house and is buried. She's buried in Anderson, Indiana. Ironically, I have family in Anderson, Indiana. I used to go to Anderson, Indiana as a kid. Just one of those weird connections where you're like, okay, that's, doesn't necessarily mean anything, but there was a weird connection because Anderson is just a weird small town that nobody ever has heard of typically. So I was surprised, but she's seen going back and forth from where the stove used to be, which would have been in this corner here. That closet, that pantry didn't exist when they renovated the house in 2023. He added that, so it used to be a flat wall. But the wood burning stove would have been back somewhere in that corner originally. And her spirit is seen walking to here and then turning around and then walking to the sink. And this is the original sink as well. So, so that's Viola. We think it's Viola just because, I don't know. Well, number one, the medium said she was wearing clothing that would have been appropriate to that time. But also just the fact that we feel like, this was her kitchen. This was her new start. She was, I don't know. It's just like, so I don't know if her sickness or whatever would have imprinted that. I don't know how all that stuff works, but you can only speculate with theories, but that's who we think it is. We may be completely wrong. But, and then the other person is the kitchen witch. We believe to be Martha. Now, the kitchen witch, the medium told us that when my wife and I come into the kitchen and cook and do whatever, that there's a lady that doesn't like us in her space. Not that she doesn't like us, she just doesn't like us in her space. This is her space, the kitchen. So my wife and I were like, well, if it's anyone, Martha lived here the longest out of anybody that lived in this home in the history of the home. She lived here from 1957 till her death in 2009. So we figured she'd probably be attached to the kitchen more than anyone. Since she died on Halloween, we started calling her the kitchen witch. Anytime we walk into the kitchen, not all the time, but sometimes we'll be like, oh no, we're getting ready to make dinner. Don't get us, kitchen witch. We'll just joke and stuff. But the second night the investigators were here, the second time, I always say night, they did 2 separate investigations months apart. The second investigation, Rose and Georgia, the medium, and my wife were back in my room. I think Joe was in this area in the kitchen with his REM pod, and he had this thing on the floor that it's like a LED strip, and when you step over it, it stops where the motion's detected. Well, the voice thing that she had said the witch is here, and then as that was saying it, the stuff in the kitchen was going off, the REM pod, the thing on the floor was stopping. So almost like we took it as she was joking around, like, ha ha ha, the witch is here. I know you call me the kitchen witch, but seemed like it was in good fun. Like, but she was like, look what I can do, like, and then when we told the paranormal people that we called her the kitchen witch, that made it that much crazier. And I think when they use those things with the voices and stuff, they put it on airplane mode if they're using their phone, and then they have one that doesn't operate on like a cell network. I don't know, is that the Ovilus or something? You could probably help me out with that. Hello? You here?
Oh, I'm there. No, it's all right. It's
Okay.
actually having some strange activity over here. My camera had started to like lower itself on its own really bizarrely, because when I was talking to you just a moment ago, there's a few seconds of the camera very slowly moving down and it just disappearing behind my laptop though, which is very odd. I think it's maybe more of a technical issue than anything though. So yeah, it's probably a funny few moments a few minutes ago when I was speaking, but yeah, it's interesting that you're picking up so much activity so regularly, and especially the specific name coming through. I mean, I don't know how REM pods work exactly, so obviously I can't sort of say what's accurate, what's not accurate though. But all I
Yeah.
know is when you're in these properties, you feel it, you understand it. So I mean, anybody watching kind of the place that you're living in and hearing the stories about experiences that you have, those people can only believe what you've
Yeah.
seen, and whether they do believe or don't believe, ultimately it's only ever going to be a belief until you experience it yourself. So I mean, I know the experiences that you've had. I've had some similar experiences myself, so I do know these things can happen. So I mean, it's just another beautiful part of the world that we live in, really. But yeah, it's interesting.
This
The
one,
kitchen witch.
the
Yeah, sorry, go
kitchen
ahead.
witch is good, and then this one's an interesting one too. Now, one of the first things that my wife and I discovered in this house that was weird was our dog wouldn't sleep in our bedroom. He'd always slept in the bed. Um, Lost you there. You there? Lost you.
All back. Yeah, a few technical issues, I think, though, which is kind of expected on these kind of live streams. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
All good. No, carry on. All good.
Okay. Yeah. So the first thing that happened was my dog wouldn't sleep in our bedroom, and it was weird because he'd always slept in his dog bed in the other houses that we had on our floor. So we just didn't understand what was going on. So long story short, we put him in the bed with us to keep him in the bedroom. So now he's always sleeping in our bed. Our other dog, Molly, sleeps in a crate, like a cage, and she likes to go in there, and that's where she feels safe at night. It's her bed, whatever. But so one night, Miles is in his bed, in our bed, and in bed, and Molly is in her crate, and I'm going to turn off the porch light or turn on the porch light for the night because I'm getting ready to go to bed. So I'm walking back and turn on the porch light. And then as I'm turning around, walking to go back to bed, I literally hear a dog, like the nails of a dog on the wood floor behind me. So I turn around and there's nothing there. But I heard it. It was literally behind me. So I was super confused because I'm thinking like my dog somehow jumped off the bed and snuck into the kitchen behind me. It didn't make any sense. I'm like, well, I would have known if he jumped off the bed, and I was afraid he would be hurt too because it's a high fall for like a dachshund with their little legs and back issues. So so I started going into the bedroom, and I didn't even know what to expect. I'm thinking maybe he did fall off. But so yeah, so I walk in here, and sure enough, he's sound asleep in bed, and Molly's in her cage, sound asleep. And I was just like, oh my God. So I called my wife immediately and was just like, I just heard a freaking dog walk behind me in our kitchen that wasn't there. And the interesting thing was the medium, when she came here, she did tell us we had several cats and dog spirits in the house. but specifically a German Shepherd. So I just said, all right, that's the German Shepherd then, you know. And there have been two occasions since we lived in this house where I have physically felt a dog on the side of the bed, like trying to get me up for getting breakfast in the morning. On right this part of the bed. This is where I sleep on this side. But the dog was like, when you feel a dog kind of push up on the side of the bed trying to get your attention, like it was like that. I could feel it. So I woke up both times it happened and told my wife immediately because I'm like, I just felt it. It's really startling. And I always want to like tell her like so she knows that like I'm not making this up and I'm not crazy. That's why we called the paranormal team to come out, because we wanted somebody to, if they would have experienced nothing at all, and then we're like, I don't know what you're talking about. Then I've been like, oh, okay, cool, that's cool. And then I would have never said anything to anyone again, but them coming out and validating some stuff, really does make you feel a little bit better. And they don't charge money to come out. Like the medium doesn't charge money. There's no money ever involved with any of this stuff, which I love because like they're not trying to exploit this. They're trying to figure it out too, So it's cool working with somebody that has that same kind of, mentality of trying to find the history and all that stuff. So moving on into Walt's room. Any questions on any of that stuff?
A couple. Is there a time of day you feel the kitchen witch is more prominent?
It's definitely not like any time of the day. No, I mean, there's like sometimes. Oh, I forgot to tell you about the dog bowl in the kitchen. See, I always forget to tell stuff.
That's all right. So I'm having a few camera issues at the moment. My camera just keeps dropping on its own. It's really bizarre. This is the beauty of doing live. Like anything can happen. Like there we go. Right, good. Behave. Slowly. Right. All good. All fixed.
Oh yeah, and one day my wife was working in the kitchen, and we had this little plastic dog bowl. It's like a travel dog bowl we take with us to when our dogs go on vacation with us. It's collapsible, so it's easy to store and take with you. Well, it was on the floor one day. It was empty. My wife was working in the kitchen, and it starts wobbling. And then she heard it like, spin, how it gets faster at the end, like a quarter, and spins. And so she heard that sound and she turned around and looked and like saw it like was moving. And she like called for me, was very startled. And we spent, an amount of time trying to figure out, did she kick it? Was she, but she was far enough away. Like there's no way she would have come in contact with that at all. Yeah. But it was in the spot where, like, in the path of the spot where supposedly Viola goes back and forth from the stove to the kitchen, or the stove to the sink. But also then I thought too, well, if there's a spirit of a dog in the kitchen, could it have been the dog too, right? So
I wonder.
That was kind of weird though.
Yes, I wonder why these events happen. Because if you think, spirit of a dog, is it just trying to interact with yours? Is it something else trying to pose as a dog? I wonder, like, because I mean, I do know these things. It takes a lot of energy for them to exert this amount of kind of, I don't know what you call it, psychic energy, I suppose. So if it's going to do it, it's going to be for a reason, a good reason as well. So be kind of curious to see kind of what it's trying to communicate. So that's fascinating. I mean, I've seen objects move myself. I've seen, I think when I was a kid, sorry, not a kid, more of a teenager really, I sat in my living room, saw a metal bowl that was full of sweets just explode and spray sweets all over the room, just explode out of nowhere. I didn't kick it, nothing dropped onto it. Could be thermodynamics as well. It could have been, maybe hotter during the day, cooler in the night. It could have just, shifted the metal maybe, but the moment that happened, the whole room was full of energy. So when you experience things like that, do you feel like there's like an electrical charge?
Yeah, there are other signs, man, for sure. And interestingly enough, sometimes I will get like the hair on the neck standing up and the arms and stuff in the kitchen. I mean, I don't know, maybe it's because the electrical is right under me and that's it's doing it. I don't know. But I do notice like the kitchen seems to definitely have an odd energy too. But for the question of when do we experience like that feeling, it's like you just never know, man. Like this place, most of the stuff I'm telling you, if not all the stuff, I think it happens in the daytime. So it's like there's not. I don't, there's no really rhyme or reason to when things happen in this house. It's just like I don't know why, but yeah, that's the way it is, man. Because I'm always conditioned to think it's going to be at night when you turn the lights off. And of course, that's when the scary noises happen and the guy comes out of the closet and stuff. That's where we're all conditioned to think. So I think that's what you always assume. And of course, it's like it's a lot creepier and I think, scarier at night if, whatever. But honestly, like, when I do the ghost tours during the daytime, that's when sometimes these things, the cat ball interactions start happening. So, yeah, man, it's like it doesn't really make a difference at this house when you investigate or whatever. But yeah, so you just never know, honestly. And it doesn't. I don't want to make it sound like stuff happens every day either, because it doesn't happen every day. But um, last night, this was going off for the first time in a while where I've caught it on. Let me see. Can you see the ball?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was going off. I put it up on Instagram and TikTok last night. The camera caught this thing going off probably like maybe 3 or 4 times during the night. Just mostly it went off a couple times around 11 and 12, and then I think again at like 4 in the morning or 5, something like that. But again, it like the fan. We don't have the fan running. I've tried to false trigger these things where you can yell at them or you stomp on the floor. See, watch it go off now. But like I wave my hand in front of it, I yell at it, But no, you gotta touch it, right? So I'm not saying these are paranormal per se, but we've also had the TV shut off in this room in conjunction with the cat ball going off, and I'll tell you the story about that right now. So. The last death that we found out about in this house was a guy named Walt. Walt lived here when he moved in with Martha after Harold died. He moved in again around the early 80s, I think around 84. And after Martha died in 2009, she left the house to him to live rent-free until he passed away. He passed away February 3rd, 2023 in this room. Right where this piece of furniture is, where I'm pointing the camera. His bed stuck out from this wall out that way. That's why I keep the cat ball right here. It would have been in the path of where his bed would have been. I do know his body was found right here because my neighbor was the one that found him, and he told me exactly where. But yeah, so my wife one day was walking. We just say it's Walt's room. I just call it Walt's room. So, and apparently he was a super cool guy. So thank goodness for that, man. If he was like a bad guy, I don't think I'd be talking about him right now. You know what I mean? So anyway, she's walking past this room at like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock in the morning, and she notices the ball going off. So it's going off. She's like, oh, she yells to me to come and check it out because, maybe, I don't know if it hadn't gone off for a while, or whatever, because sometimes it'll be weeks, between when these things go off, if not months. I mean, you never know. So I come in, I'm looking, and it stops, just like it stopped right now. And I'm like, up, show's over, whatever. I go back to the TV room. She goes back to doing what she's doing. But then when she walks past again, a little later, it's going off again. So she comes back in the room and didn't call me in. And then all of a sudden the TV, this is a frame TV. It's an art TV. It displays artwork. So we have it on all the times because we like the way it looks. But it doesn't shut off unless you shut it off. You have to actually hold down the power button like 2 seconds to power it off. So she's standing here, the thing powers off. So she powers it back on. And then this thing goes off again. And then the TV powers off. again. So I think she was a little freaked out by that time. So she turns it on again. Then she calls me. I'm back over in here in the room, and we were just talking about energy. It definitely felt weird in here, man. Like, it's hard to describe, but we were both kind of looking at each other like, ugh, it's just what, we felt. She felt like she was disturbing whoever was in here, and he was trying, or she was trying to turn the TV off to just like be like, leave me alone, get out of here, turn off the TV. But anyway, so we're both standing in this room, and then that energy or whatever it was just kind of lifted. It was gone. The TV stayed on the rest of the time. The ball didn't go off again. Just back to daily normal living and whatever. And I can't remember when this happened, as far as the month and all that. I should write down the dates when this stuff happens, but it was quite a while ago, and it's never happened again since we've lived here. So that was one of those where you just kind of take notice. One of those like, wow, that was interesting. So anyway, all right, I'm gonna move on to our room. Any questions?
Nothing much from the chat though. I mean, me as always, I'm always full of questions. But yeah, it seems to be that's quite an active room, and weirdly, I could almost feel it from here. I don't. It's a long story as to how we, mediums tend to work anyway. It's because everything's ultimately linked. It doesn't really matter where you are in the world. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm kind of curious. Like, so the experiences that you've shared so far, you say that multiple people have experienced things. For example, like when the medium came to your property and talked about the activity in your house, like the kitchen, and things are being shared. So you're getting a sort of validation because other people are picking up things, and so it's not just simply imagination when other people start to see these things more. So
Yeah.
I kind of wonder, like, it's always that outlining question, like, what message is the house trying to share with you? And I know you've been working with spirits in the house to obviously form your big story, but are these spirits essentially like the same people basically? Do you tend to kind of find like new spirits passing through? Like, is there a sort of I suppose a consistency in connection? Do you kind of know who you're communicating with at times?
So I definitely feel the connection to Harold for sure. That's the guy that inspired the book. I
Yeah.
think he's here. I've been told that he's stuck here. I've been told that he comes and goes here by two different mediums. I don't know if we talked about
Right.
this when I talked to you on the podcast, but
Yeah.
um, so I'll delve into. But yeah, as far as shared experiences, it's funny because like you do share experiences, but then within mediums, it was almost like a little bit of a different take from the mediums, and then I have to decipher like because I know more information about all this stuff than they know because I've done an extensive research on a lot of these people. So um, I will tell the story of before we talk about the next hauntings and deaths in this room. Sounds so nice, doesn't it? I'm pretty sure we're pretty sure that the two people that died, one in 1914 and one in 1919, died in this bedroom or the room right next to me, which used to be called a sleeping porch. And I'll talk about that. But I think it's kind of cool to get into the theories, though, of why and who's here. Um, so the whole thing with Harold's name originally was Prince Carlisle. He was born Prince Carlisle, not Prince like a prince of a country. His name was Prince, like the artist Prince, but his name was Prince. I mean, that's pretty wild to have somebody named Prince though, because I think he was born in 1905. So it's pretty like interesting name to have a kid named Prince. You know what I mean? Um,
I like it.
yeah, I mean they're
Nice.
way ahead of their time. I think Prince stole his name from his. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to sue Prince's estate on his behalf. So, so he was born Prince Carlisle in Massachusetts. He got his first writing job for I think it was the Fall River News or something like that, the Fall River Weekly, whatever it was called. And as a young man, he actually saw Lizzie Borden. Did we talk about Lizzie Borden? Do you know who Lizzie Borden is?
No, not yet.
Okay. All right. So Lizzie Borden, like, it's a famous case here in America, a murder case. But anyway, he saw Lizzie Borden as an older woman getting taunted by children on the street, doing the Lizzie Borden took an axe and gave her mother 40 whacks. When she saw what she had done, she gave her father 41 chant. So like it was just kind of weird to think like, wow, he actually saw, like, being from America and the Lizzie Borden story. I just thought it was like wild. So we actually incorporate Lizzie Borden in the book Ghostwriter. Um, so when the people that know the true story behind the book, come across some Lizzie Borden stuff, they're like, oh, okay, cool. They put some Lizzie Borden stuff in there because of that. But so then he worked for eventually the New York Times. He's married. He has 3 kids. And he breaks the story that DuPont, the company DuPont, invents nylon, apparently, in 1939, is, I think, when he broke the story. So after that story broke, I don't know if he was supposed to break the story, but I don't think they were too happy with him. So I don't think he was supposed to break the story. I think it was like he got a source, or something like that. But so after that happens, he disappears for 3 years. He's missing. They can't find him. So, like, his wife is searching for him. The police are searching for him. I mean, his kids, everybody's just looking for him. They don't know where he is. Well, they find him 3 years later in Texas, and his name is now Harold Monroe, and he's got a new wife, and he ends up having 3 kids. So the point of my story is the one medium's theory was he's here to help me do this book and this whole crazy thing that I'm doing, like talking to you right now, that I never thought I'd ever do in my lifetime. And he's helping me because he wants to help me get back into the writing and creating and get back into that passion that I had when I wrote comedy back, in 2000, early 2000s, and retired until the guy retired in 2007. That when I got the tattoo and the connection, because that's his good deed, and then he can move on after it's done, and he feels like it's where it should be. But then the other medium said she feels more that yes, he is responsible for all this, but he still can come and go. He's not trapped here. So I don't know. It's interesting to hear like both theories, right? Because like, to me, the theory about being trapped in that scenario would make sense, I would think, because I would feel pretty guilty and be as scared of what might be on the other side for me if I did that to my family in life. If I left my family and my kids and I'm like, oh God, then like when I died, like, oh, I'm afraid because he was apparently also a very religious man. So if you're religious, he's probably worried about judgment and what might be on the other side for him. So is he still in purgatory or whatever, or whatever religion he would be in, where he would just be trapped here until he does something, unfinished business, that theory kind of thing, right?
Yeah, I've heard that before. I mean, yeah, I grew up from a quite a religious family, and yeah, they believe in that kind of thing. Okay, if you didn't follow our rules, then yeah, you could find yourself in limbo or purgatory or however you would describe it. So yeah, it seems like a Harold's come to you with a purpose. So obviously, there's something about you that stood out to this spirit, and obviously he's kind of using you to fulfill a certain purpose, though. But obviously, he must know it's doing something for you as well. It's kind of helping you to kind of go into this new adventure and try something new, entirely new, and
Yeah.
just speak about an area of life that a lot of people still, even today, are still a little bit unsure about speaking about. But you are literally, yeah, you are very literal with the way that you show it. It's like, okay, this is the house, this is what I'm experiencing.
Yeah.
You know, you decide what to think with it ultimately, and that's great, because not enough people just treat it as an experience and something to discuss and something to learn from, and would rather speak about just the spooky side of things. Obviously, spookiness is just part of the paranormal world, really, though, but it's just one small part of a greater conversation. So
Oh yeah, and
it's great how, yeah,
you know me now, like, and I get so geeky with the history that like I forget to talk about the paranormal stuff sometimes because I'm so
how
like,
you remember all this stuff is amazing.
oh, thank you, man. I appreciate that. You know, it's like I literally was obsessed with researching everything I could find about this house. And I'm still learning. I still am learning. That's the thing. Like
Yeah,
I'm still researching. I give it a rest and then I'll hit it hard again, and I'll give it a rest and hit it hard again. And because there's still pictures I want to come across. There's so many things that I still want to learn, stories about people I haven't learned about, that their life in this house and stuff. And so I'm focusing more on now, Harold and the Civil War guy and all that. But eventually, I'd like to be able to focus more time on finding out who the other people were here as well, not just the ones that died here. So
it's amazing because
anyway, but
you're telling their story, and that's the wonderful thing, because they're in a way living on through you telling these stories and you kind of being part of this thing, and
yeah,
it just adds to that further body of evidence of consciousness existing beyond now and going to wherever it goes. One thing I was going to ask you as well, when it came to mind, does Harold have like a tell? Like, is there something that he does to announce his arriving? Like, it could be like a smell, for example, or objects being moved, or like, does he have a particular like signature? Yeah, I'm here now.
that's a good question, man. With him, it seems to be more of stuff that is like informational.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Like where
Yes.
I feel
Yes.
like I get steered a certain direction to look at something or ask a certain questions on a certain day, and then get maybe an answer that I'm looking for. If that makes sense. Like he's just like,
Yes.
that's how I know he's around. It's like I get motivated, but not just motivated. It's like a random question where, why the hell did I just think about that right now? And then I have to find the answer, and I figure out how do I find the answer. You know what I'm saying? That happened
Yeah.
the other day, actually, which was really interesting. Um, so I won't say any of the language because like I have to say unalived and stuff, right? Because I don't
Oh
want it to
yeah, I
get
think
you
you have
banned.
to
Okay.
with YouTube nowadays. Yeah, yeah. No, you're
Okay.
absolutely right.
So, but the other day, man, I met next door. There used to be a lady who moved in 1988, I think, or 98. I'm sorry, and got married the year later. Um, and they had uh, been married for a while, but then in 2017, I think it was July 28th, he went into the backyard and he unalived himself.
Gosh.
Well, I had kind of met her through Facebook, with this stuff going on with my house because I'm in a neighborhood group where other people that have paranormal experiences in their homes post stuff, like a ghost group for the neighborhood. And she saw me and knew where I had lived, and so she thought that he may possibly be here for some reason because he was good friends with Walt. Like they were really good pals. And but so I contacted her the other day, and I was just like, I forget what I was gonna ask her, um, but it was something related to. Oh yeah, it was. I was asking her. I felt so compelled just to ask her when she moved in to that home next door, and she told me, and then she said, "Yeah. Oh, and by the way, Monday is the anniversary of Sam when Sam took his life." Um, it was Monday, so I almost felt like why. So why did I contact her with that? just out of the blue. And I don't
That is
contact
so
this lady a
strange.
lot, dude. I've only talked to this lady a few times. I'll like her stuff on Facebook every now and then because she's a nice older lady. And God, she's been through a lot. Obviously, her husband took his own life. You know, she found him in the backyard and has to live with that. You know, that burned in her brain the rest of her life. You know what I mean? She won't even come to the house. I invited her to my home because I wanted to learn about Sam and who he was. And like she won't come here because she's so traumatized by the house next door that she won't. And I don't blame
I
her,
wouldn't
man.
blame
It's
her. Yeah.
yeah, but
Yeah,
you know, so
maybe this is your chance to maybe help her to heal. That's the thing. You might be connected to her in some way to help her through that process. Because I imagine that
yeah,
must have been a horrible experience.
I don't know. You know, maybe that's it. You know, you don't know, but this whole experience like has you know I've met people like that and I've talked to them and I would have never thought I would have been a person that like because I'm pretty introverted. I'm a behind the scenes kind of person. I don't like to be seen. You know, heard fine, but seen, yeah. So, anyway, but yeah. So, let me get on with the tour here. I could sit and talk to you about like all this stuff, or like you know. But anyway, we were talking about that's how Harold kind of communicates with me. That same kind of I don't know if that was Sam or Harold, but I felt like they were making sure that I knew that Monday was the anniversary of the day that he had passed in 2017, right? Like, why would I need to know the date? Like,
Yeah.
you know, so, and again, that's how Harold, it's not like a smell or a thing. It's just like, I feel like I have to get this information for some reason. And it turns out to be useful information, maybe that day or a later time where I'm like, oh, wow, okay. You know what I mean? Now I get it.
If if it helps you to
So,
know, I'm exactly the same with something that I'm connected to. But yeah, I don't want to hold the ghoster up too much though. But yeah, there's something I've been connected to for some time that puts me into the right place at the right time to help the right person, and it just blows my mind. And I don't even know how that's possible just yet, but it's just all part of the fascination of the paranormal. Really, it's part of the world we
yeah.
can't quite explain yet. So you have to just go with the flow.
Yep. Okay, moving on. This
Go for it.
is the slowest. This is the slowest ghost tour ever. All right, here we go. All right. So my bedroom. This is where we have had a couple things happen since we've lived here. The medium, I will say, did say she saw the spirit of a grumpy old man in this room. We're trying to figure out who that is. It's not me, not yet, at least. It's getting close, um,
We
but
believe you.
yeah.
We believe you.
But yeah, so we're trying to figure out who that may be, but that's who she said is in here. She only saw a spirit of one person, and that was the older man. So, um, this during both investigations, actually, in this room, they had I don't know if they had one of their phones set up recording, but it was on a tripod. It was like right in this area here, and you can hear a clear, I guess they call them EVPs of someone whispering, "Hey." It's like, "Hey," and it's like super clear, super loud. Like you can definitely hear it. And when it was rolling in here, there was nobody in here. We were all out in different rooms towards the front of the house. That happened about right here. And then months later, on the second investigation, same setup, also got a hey. It's not quite as strong as the first one, but you can definitely hear it. You hear it, and then the investigator Joe walks in, not just like a few seconds after something says hey, which was pretty interesting that they caught the same thing at the same place on two separate investigations. Also, the cat ball, more cat ball experiences in this chair every now and then. This chair, I believe, is from the Victorian period. I think it's probably from the late 1880s, early 1890s, if I would have to guess. Could be wrong. Could be a little earlier than that, but I'm not sure. But yeah, we've had sometimes we'll set the cat ball here and it will go off. And then the TV. turned on in this room. This was a couple months ago. My wife was in this room walking, just whatever, and the TV just decided to turn on, which is weird. It's never done it since because I keep the remote control in my nightstand drawer right there. So, two whispers of a hey, a TV thing, cat ball stuff. My dog not sleeping on the bedroom floor in this room. Again, he only sleeps in bed with us now, which is not fun, but it's better than him walking around all night out there. So the first person who we think passed away in this room, it was either this room, we believe, or the room that's through those doors, which used to be a bedroom, used to be a sleeping porch. Now it's a bathroom. But just from based on what we did our research on and where we think these people may have slept, we pretty much think they both probably slept in this room, but not 100% sure. But the first person to pass away in the house was named Alicia Morford. Alicia Morford was a former Union soldier for the Indiana 68th Infantry, Company C. Alicia came down here with his family. Viola was his great niece. She was the only family that he had alive. From what I gather, his wife had passed away. His kids all passed away before him. So he probably just came down because that was the only family he had at the time. And he was like 75, I think, when he moved down. 75, 76, something like that. When he died. Yeah, I have the obituary, I have the death certificate, and he passed away January 18th, 1914. So around less than 5 years later, so almost 5 years later, on December 26th, 1919, a lady named Anna Lubbock Kennedy passed away here. Again, most likely either the bedroom or that back room, probably the bedroom. Anna Lubbock Kennedy, the name Lubbock is a big name in Texas. Lubbock, Texas was named after Anna's dad. Anna's dad's name was Thomas Saltus Lubbock, Saltus. It's a weird name. Thomas Saltus Lubbock. Thomas was big in the Republic of Texas battles for the independence of Texas against Mexico. He fought Santa Anna. So he was big in the Republic of Texas. She was Anna actually is a daughter of the Republic of Texas because she was born when Texas was actually a republic. So she was here as an older woman. She had family that lived in this neighborhood, and also in Fort Worth. She lived here with her daughter, Helen, and her son-in-law, Ed. But she did pass away December 26th. I think it was like 11 something at night. 1919. But here's the thing: her dad actually, after the Republic of Texas, the Republic of Texas ended up going into the Union with the United States, and when that happened, the Civil War was going on. So Thomas Lubbock took Terry's Texas Rangers. They were like a famous fighting force in the battle for the independence of Texas. He offered up their services to, I think it was Robert E. Lee or Jefferson Davis to fight in the Civil War for the Confederates. And Terry's Texas Rangers actually fought against Alicia Morford's unit from Indiana, the Union soldier. I know for sure at the Battle of Chickamauga, and also I believe a couple other battles. So it's pretty wild to think that there's a little bit of a Civil War history right here in the bedroom of a Union soldier dying here in Confederate territory, and then the daughter of a well-known Confederate who also would be a Confederate dying probably in the same bedroom in less than 5 years. It's just pretty interesting history, I would say. Now, does that have anything to do with what we're experiencing? Again, we don't know, but it's just kind of an interesting story and piece of history. So, any questions before I move on to the next room?
Yeah. So, what's it like living in a house where so many people have passed over? Really, because it's a gorgeous looking house, and I know you've seen certain activity, but just knowing what you know, what's it going to feel like? Do you feel like you're part of history yourself?
Well, I need to pass away here.
Hopefully that's not on the plan.
Hopefully, like not like now, but maybe later on, then I can haunt it too. That'd be cool. But no, do I feel like a piece of history here? Yeah, I do actually. It's like because everybody that's lived in this home prior to myself probably knows almost nothing of this. But interestingly enough, there was one gentleman that was interested in the history of this house. That would be Harold Monroe. I have an actual list that Harold wrote. His son gave me that he was doing research to find out who lived in the house. But back then, they could only use the Census Bureau, and that was published like every 10 years. So like it was very difficult to find out who lived in these homes. Like back when he was doing research. Of course, now I got newspaper archives and Ancestry.com and all that kind of stuff. So that's
Yeah.
why I found out way more than he ever knew. But I thought it was cool because like it seemed like he was interested in the history. I'm fascinated with the history. So, not only is it like he used me as a vessel for the book, but as a vessel to discover the rest of the history. And my daughter and I put together a book. It's a really thick book of almost everybody that's lived in this house. Newspaper archives, pictures, obituaries. And then my daughter actually hand wrote the names of the people who lived here, their spouses, their occupations, if we knew it, the dates that they lived here. And then we go through chronologically from like the 1910s to the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. We go all the way to now. And then we're going to actually leave that book with the house. So no matter what, whoever lives here in the future, whether or not my kids decide to take this house on when we pass away, I don't know, it's up to them. But the book, no matter what, it stays with the house. And so we'll add to it for our own history. And then if I find more stuff out, I'll add to it as well. But then the future owners too can then add their own history and keep adding to the book for future generations. Yeah. So yeah.
It's quite wonderful to be part of this kind of ongoing story for the house. I kind of wonder, like, for all the research that you've done, have you found anything, any notes, any scribblings, just referencing any paranormal activity?
No.
Has previous owners experienced anything? No, nothing at all.
No. So the only person I know that I can talk to or I've talked to, and he doesn't seem too interested, not in the paranormal part, but he had some bad experience stuff with the house and I don't think really. I think he just wants to kind of wash his hands of this whole house thing and just put it in his past. You know what I mean? Because of some personal stuff. But he did show interest in the paranormal stuff because now he lived here. He probably would have moved out in the early 80s. He was probably here like 80, 81. That was it. So he hadn't lived here since then. And then that's when Walt moved in like 84. So like Walt, to my knowledge, didn't talk about anything paranormal, but I did contact Stewart, who's the guy. He's the guy that he was the son of Harold. So, and he's still my son found him on Facebook somehow, and like so. Then I contacted him and just said, "Hey, we bought your folks' house. I'm doing some research, and I would love to know more about your dad and your mom." And he ended up coming over to the house, and he like showed us like he like showed us the way things used to be set up and where his room was and stories about some of the neighbors back in the day. And he brought us the original chandelier of the house because when the house was being renovated, the original chandelier was up and they were just going to take it down and just give it to a salvage store. But he said he asked them if they would give it to him because he sold the house to them because he was the heir of for the house. So they say, yeah, man, you can take it. So he put it in a bag and he gave it to me. It was like covered in smoke and like years of just like his neglect. And so it took me a month, but I got it cleaned up and we've got it rewired. And now it's hanging back in the family room. So we were so happy he gave it to us, man, because like that's the original chandelier.
That's an incredibly trusting thing to do, for one, to let someone into your family history, really, and of course, be trusted to revisit a property that this person used to live in as well. I can imagine that must have been quite an emotional experience for
Yeah,
them. And of course, go as far as saying, "Okay, oh, by the way, here's a chandelier that used to
yeah,
be in the
yeah.
property. Would you like to renew that?" And that's such a wonderful thing to do. And
And
when
he
you
was the
installed the
first.
chandelier, did it
When I
affect
told
the
you about my dog not
Yeah,
sleeping in the bedroom, I just went, and since I kind of had a relationship with him a little bit, I flat out asked him. I'd say, "Do you know if this house is haunted?" I said, "Because my dog will not sleep in our
yeah,
bedroom, and that's never
yeah,
happened in any." And I don't know why. I'm like, he goes to the front of the house into the TV room where I heard the whisper of someone saying hi, ironically,
yeah,
and he said, "Well," he said, "it's not haunted to my knowledge," which implied that he didn't have anything happen when he was growing up, right? I would say, you know, but he said, "But I do know my parents both loved animals. They both loved dogs, especially. And if it is haunted, they're good spirits and they love dogs. Oh, and they both passed away in that part of the house." So
yeah.
that's when I found out that they passed away in that part of the house. He told me that his mom and dad both passed away in the front of the house. So, because I told you, it's not like my dog was it. So was it my dog being scared of my room, or was it he just wanted to go see somebody out every night in the front of the house that was friendly to my dog because he loved them there, and that was his parents.
Yeah.
I don't
That's
know.
what. Yeah, dogs seem to perceive a level of reality that I don't think we can quite, do really. They're always a good signifier, and I'm kind of curious as well. When you installed the chandelier, like, did it affect the activity that you were experiencing at the time? I'm kind of curious, like, because sometimes returning items back to a property with activity sometimes can accelerate or decelerate activity.
I can't honestly answer that because I didn't really pay attention. I wasn't really aware of is more stuff happening right now or not, because sometimes there are days where it seems like more things kind of do happen than others, but I don't know if I could tie that to a chandelier because I just don't remember, honestly, you know what I mean? So
No, that's
but
fair
that
enough.
that's a good
I was just
question. Yeah,
curious.
yeah, that's a good question. um I think we covered the bedroom then, right? So yeah, we got the Civil War history, the two deaths, the whisper, the TV turning on, the cat ball stuff, grumpy old man spirit. Yeah, I think we got it. Okay. I can't believe I have to remember all this stuff. I can't even remember what I walk into the kitchen for, and I'm remembering this stuff. It's crazy. All right. So here we go. Oh, God, too close. I know. Sorry, ladies. I know I look like Brad Pitt, and it's hard to look away, but please look away. Okay. So this is the used to be a sleeping porch. Okay. So you see all the windows. Um, One of the first things that happened too in the house actually happened back here. It was a curtain that was pulled back, like somebody was looking out the window. It was this curtain, not this curtain. It was this window, different curtain at the time. My wife bought these because they look more vintage, I guess. But so anyway, so she's outside walking towards the house, coming in the backyard, and she notices that the window shade was like the curtain was pulled back, like somebody was peering out the window. We did the whole thing where you debunk: is it windy? Is it the AC on? The vacuum blow it? Blah blah blah. Long story short, we always try to figure all this stuff out, and that sometimes, most of the time, when they say a logical answer is the reason, it's usually a logical answer. This is one where we couldn't come up with a logical answer, which was so weird because I thought this one would be the easiest to be like the logical answer. But so, because these doors are closed too, so these doors never existed before. These are actually doors from I don't know where, but this used to be one wall, so the wall was just, it was just a solid wall. And then when the guy renovated and added the bathroom back there, he wanted to make it right off the bedroom. So he put those doors in. Those doors are also the cover of the book Ghostwriter. So if you ever look at the cover of the book Ghostwriter, We
I
used
was thinking
those.
that the whole time. I was thinking, is that the
Yeah,
door from the cover? Yeah,
that's the
okay, I
door.
was right then. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, we wanted to give it like a kind of an Amityville horror kind of vibe, like Poltergeist, Amityville horror, with the red peeking through the scary
yeah,
windows, you know what I
getting out
mean?
there.
Yeah, yeah. So I think it's kind of cool how we use the actual doors. Um, so the curtains, and then these curtains a couple weeks later were all pulled back, like just a little bit, each one, two, and then three. Not that, not that, not that. It was just these three. Again, no wind that day, no AC on. It was in the spring. We did the debunking routine, and we're like, couldn't figure it out. Nothing like that has happened since in this room, other than what other things have happened in this room. We did catch, the paranormal team caught a banging sound. It's like a bang and a light shoots out, like a real small light shoots out from this area. That's videos on TikTok and Instagram and all those. You can see, and the banging sounds really loud. We weren't even in this room when that happened. That's the night too that they caught the hay, which was interesting. But this will be the medium story where I tell you why I believe in the medium now. So it was during the second investigation. We're back here. Remember, again, that wall didn't exist. This used to be one big just room. There used to be a bed that went up towards where that window was. There's a bed back here, and a lady living back here. So the medium, my wife, and I were back here, and the medium starts talking about heart issues, and it's really bad. And like just she kept saying the name Doreen. Um, Doreen, heart issues, bad. It's very sick, very bad. And so my wife and I were like, okay, well, we did know somebody had lived back here because our neighbor had told us the story of when she lived here. Because after Martha passed away in 2009, she must have moved in at some point. I think during probably around 2018, 19, something maybe around there, if I'd have to guess. Um, so we did know a lady that was back here, actually was on hospice while she was living back here with Walt. So we contacted our neighbor and we're like, what was the name of that lady that lived back here in this room? And he said, oh, Dolene. And so we're like, okay, wait, Dolene? Not Doreen, like the medium said. Her real name is Dolene, Doleen. But that's so close to Doreen, like, and then she was sick and everything. And I said, what was wrong with her? And he told me that she had, like terminal cancer. She wasn't fighting it. She was just actively dying back here in this room. Super obviously just ill. He told me some other stories about when he had to help her off the floor. And oh my goodness, it was pretty, pretty, pretty bad, I would say,
Oh,
this
bless
poor
her.
lady.
Yeah.
And then I said, did she have heart issues? And he said, no, not to my knowledge. I only know about the cancer stuff. But then later that day, his wife texted and said, yeah, I do think she had one or two open heart surgeries. So I was like, okay, so there are the heart issues. But so here's something interesting, though. I found out when I was talking to you earlier about Julie and contacting her about Sam. Um, I actually come across a post that Julie had posted that I don't know what why she does it, but she reposts her old posts and then responds to her old posts today. Yeah, I know. And then nobody
Well, why not?
responds. So she's very interesting. Yeah, very sweet, but very yeah, very interesting. So uh but she had posted that my next door neighbor just had triple bypass surgery today. That next door neighbor in 2011 it was Walt. So
There's a bit of a technical issue there. This is what we tend to have in his house. Every now and again, we'll get like a cut or something random happening. So I'll see if we can get Brian to come back in just a moment. But for anyone that's watched so far, yeah, thank you for watching our little our first live. It's a bit of an experiment at the moment to see how best to kind of run these formats. So really appreciate Brian taking the time to show us through his amazing property and tell us the incredible story of the ghostwriter. He'll come back shortly. So yeah, well, hopefully you guys like this, and feel free to ask any questions about what you've seen today. And yeah, we're hoping we'll get a bit of activity today, but you can never quite predict the way these events would go, really. But the amazing thing about Brian's story is the fact that he was contacted by an entity, and that entity ultimately changed his life. Really, he went from being a comedy writer to writing the ghost writer story, and just became something entirely new. And yeah, being used by a spirit to maybe share a bigger message is quite an amazing thing in itself. And it's a story I resonate with quite closely. It's something very personal to me. For many years, I experienced something. When I was a kid, I had an out of body experience and came into contact with an entity that I've yet to explain after all these years. And I kept it inside because I was too scared to talk about it, because my religious background, my friendship groups, social groups just didn't like the idea of speaking about the paranormal. It was seen as the big no-no. And I used to avoid it. And my experiences were all quite dark about this dark creature following me, about this creature being in my room sometimes, and experiencing poltergeist activity, experiencing noises and different things happening. And I just kept it to myself. And yeah, my sister and other family members experienced what I had experienced at the time, but really it's something I just didn't talk about. But I'm not sure what happened. But one day I just gained my confidence. I just began to feel this thing growing up inside and thinking, okay, I need to tell a story, need to say this thing. And I don't know what happened, whether it was something that spoke through me, because I have quite a strong spirit guide, which is quite good with knowledge sharing. Um, so yeah, one day I just woke up and thought, I've got a story to tell, and I started writing this book. This book became Paranormality, and also this podcast as well. I was just pushed to go, okay, let's start telling your story and start asking other people to share their stories as well. It's all quite spooky, and there are strange things to experience and try to understand, but really being okay with talking about these things is a wonderful, wonderful thing. So I don't think we have Brian back just yet. I think his connection's completely gone now. Where are you? So yeah, I think we'll just round off there for our first live. And I wanted to say thank you to Brian, though, but I messaged him after just to check that he's okay, that he hasn't, been possessed by any particular entity. But it was wonderful. And yeah, thank you, Brian, if you're watching this recording now, for showing us around your wonderful property and telling your story in such incredible detail. I mean, the amount of knowledge you have in that brain of yours that you just blurt out, remembering all the history of the property that's taken place for hundreds of years is just amazing. So yeah, thank you, Brian, and thank you to anybody watching us. And stay tuned for more lives as time goes by. And we have a lot more interesting conversations taking place over the next few months. So stay tuned. We're worth watching and waiting out for. Don't forget to subscribe. We do need people to subscribe to keep sharing the message, which I always forget to ask because I never like asking people to subscribe. But yeah, thank you for being here. Have a lovely night, everybody. You guys take care. Oh, you're back. You're back, Brian.
What happened?
I was doing my little round off message, so everything just cut off. Did your internet go down?
No.
How bizarre. So I've had all sorts of issues tonight. I've had my camera dropping midway through the conversation, which was just really bizarre. And obviously you've disappeared, and yeah, what I was doing just now is just saying a big thanks to you, really, for taking the time and take us through the property. And is there anything else that you wanted to show us before we go, before we round off?
What part did I drop off on, man?
How long have you been going on for?
I don't know.
This part of the fun of the live, you see, it just happens. No, I think we were last in your in that
Bathroom?
bathroom where you're talking about the story of the medium, and I
Okay.
think you rounded off on that though. But yeah, if there's anything else you wanted to say before we close off, and feel free to continue.
No, you know what? Let me go ahead and I told you the story is so long, dude.
Yeah,
It's like so
you might
involved
want
and
to
so
rotate your phone again though, if that's okay.
all right. So basically, I think we can wrap it up now. I can tell
Yeah.
you, do you want me to tell you a little bit about the true crime that we discovered on the
Oh,
street
if
as well?
you don't mind doing that as the last story anyway, then I'll wrap things up. Yeah, would you mind rotating your phone again, please?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
think it's
yeah.
just managed to. It should flip around somehow. No, it's just stuck on portrait at the moment. Doesn't matter anyway. Not to worry.
Better?
Yeah, it's portrait, but it's landscape with the the wrong way around.
Oh my gosh.
What is going on tonight? This is what happens. You see,
Better?
it's the house. Yes. No, it's fine. You carry on anyway. It's all okay. So yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Please continue, and we'll finish off in a few minutes.
Okay. So basically, so I told you about the person that unalived him next door in 2017. We also found out on the other side of us, the other house next door, in no 1911. I can't remember the month, but it was 1911. I know the year. A girl who was, I think, 16 years old passed away from typhoid fever, which was pretty interesting. I mean, typhoid, you hear about that, but then to actually find someone that passed away from typhoid fever, I didn't know if that was a big thing around here back in the time or whatever, but apparently so. So, just, too young to die though, very tragic, and then,
Yeah.
2 doors down from me in 1998, an 18-year-old unalived his grandmother with his bare hands. A few houses down from that, across the street in 1999, a couple in their upper 60s was unalived. That case was never solved. In 2020, down the next block, a 4-year-old girl was unalived by her mother because her mother said that if she didn't do it, something worse was going to happen to her. So she decided to do it. And she called 911, and the police came. She admitted what she had done, and took them to the trash can where she had put her. Um, let's see, 1923, I discovered that a big explosion happened and a fire that destroyed and damaged several houses, literally right next to mine. I mean, right around mine, not next door, but like across the street and 2 houses over, like that close. Like those houses were either damaged or destroyed. I think there were like 4 or 5 total. So it just seems like, again, a history of just tragedy after tragedy after event on this street, and not necessarily in my house as far as the anything negative happening with the death, but there's definitely something with the energy in the street, that and like I said, I'm not the only person that's had experiences in my home in this neighborhood. There's probably a lot of people that have had the experiences as well, and I know of a couple that have told me their personal experiences. So eventually, I'd love to write a book about just the true ghost stories of the people that live in the neighborhood. I think that would be kind of an interesting thing. But yeah. So any questions about that? And then I'll tell you a little bit about the book, and then that should do it.
No, I mean, it's quite a dramatic history. There's so much that's happened, and it's quite shocking hearing that. I mean, obviously, I never know their direct stories anyway as to why people obviously do these things, though. But hopefully they passed over, found their way to peace eventually, and yeah. But yeah, I mean, I just want to say, yeah, thank you again. Really, I mean, you didn't hear my thanks when you got cut off before, though. But I just had such a great time, kind of getting to know your story more in more detail, really, and seeing the property itself, like where the true story happened. At the moment, you're on a slope right now. You're sort of at a funny angle. Yeah, you're able to rotate it.
How's that one?
Yeah. Can I do the same? No. Yeah. Your phone, for some reason, is stuck on this weird angle though. But yeah, we'll pretend you want to sort of levitate. There we go. That's fine. That's perfect.
My goodness.
So yeah.
Turning
Tell
into
us
my
about
dad too.
Ghostwriter.
So I'm turning into my dad technologically speaking, so that's not good either, man. So, it's just like, oh my God. So,
That's all right. It's fine. It's fine.
so anything else?
No more questions at the moment. I mean, I'll probably ping you some more questions after the chat anyway, because I don't want to sort of take up all your day though. But yeah, I know you wanted to mention about Ghostwriter the book.
Okay.
So I
Yeah.
know
Let
some
me just talk
people
a
would be
little bit
interested
about the
about that.
book. Yeah. I'll tell you kind of like how this whole thing came about. Of course, it was the Herald connection that inspired this whole project. But when I approached the author, when I approached her, with the idea, because I didn't really know any authors. I'm not an author. I wrote comedy, and so it's like a different animal to write a book than it is to write a couple one-liners or sketches or anything like that. So there, I just don't have the skill set to write a book. There's no way I would have been able to do it. I knew a writer. I knew she wrote kids books and like, apparently she wrote like rock star, romance kind of books and stuff, but not scary horror novels. So when I called her up, I'm like, I have an idea. She's like, um, nice, nice talking to you, after 30 years, but no, I don't like scary stuff. I hate ghosts. No, I can't do this. No, I'd be terrified. So I was like, oh, I thought she was kidding. She wasn't kidding though. Like, but then I didn't care that if she was kidding or not, because I was so compelled to get this project done, and I felt so passionate about it. I'm like, Jen, I would text her like, you got to do it, you got to do it. This is such a great idea. Let's figure it out. So finally, she's like, okay, let's do it. And we did kind of figure it out as we went along. We didn't even really have enough. My idea was to tell the true story that I'm telling you, and that was the book basically. Like, but it's like it wasn't enough for a book, the information. So she's like, that's like, this is great for a horror novel. I mean, I also was trying to get it done originally for a screenplay for a movie, but I'm like, I guess you gotta like, in the real world, you don't just like have no experience and jump to making a major motion picture. You have to go through a few
You never
things like,
know. You never
yeah.
know.
So I was like, in my mind, I'm like, this is a movie. This would be such a great movie. But so long story short, I'm like, let's just get a book done and make it. She writes like it's a movie, so it's kind of like if it is ever adapted to a screenplay, it should be pretty easily adaptable. Um, but yeah, so we intertwined like the reality of the stuff in my house that I was just telling you about, like the dog bowl and the kitchen. I don't know if we did kitchen witch stuff, but Lizzie Borden history. It's all like mixed throughout the book, and but then like the true crime stuff too. It's mixed throughout the book. You know, but then it's, of course, we don't know like the real whole true story of any of this stuff, so we just had to go crazy fiction and go crazy scary, you know what I mean? So for somebody that doesn't like to write horror, she wrote some stuff in here that like I was even like, Jen, my mom's gonna read this, man. You can't. I don't think I can have this in here. Uh, uh, yeah, I had to literally talk to her about it. I actually ran it across with my kids and stuff, and like, what do you guys think? And yeah, like it's just such a bad part. Like it's so gross that like I decided to keep it in though, because I'm talking to you about it right now. So if I'm talking to you about it, I know the people that read it will talk about it and they'll probably be like, "Oh my God." So if you read it and you'll know what part I'm talking about. Anybody, I apologize in advance. That was all Jen.
No, the good stories are good stories. So, see, am I right in saying it's a fiction novel, but it's inspired by the events basically
Yeah,
surrounding you?
it's like historical fiction, with yeah, like I incorporate real dates of when people passed in our house in the book. Like I try to put like as much of the real stuff in as I could. But again, if I just was all just my stuff, people would be like, oh, that's so scary. Oh wow, a bowl wobbled. Ooh. So of course Jen makes it the old lady's in the corner, and all of a sudden she hears me and she slowly turns and looks at me, like that. Like that's the kind of stuff she threw in there. It's like it's been compared to like Shining, The Conjuring, Haunting at Hill House, Poltergeist. So it's been compared to some awesome books. I'm like, so I'm hoping she's going to agree to write the next one and the next one, and the next one. And I have like 5 or 6 books already planned. So, but we really want to get this book going first, obviously, before we plan on doing the other stuff, because all the money that I make from this book goes back into the next book or the next project, or hopefully I'll be able enough to make enough money from this to pay a screenwriter to get a screenplay going and shop that around and stuff. So, but again, it's kept me creatively alive. And like now my direction in life is, I know what my direction in life is from just buying a freaking house and experiencing this thing with Harold, and like the connection with him, man. It's like, yeah, it's like I'm so happy now that I've found this, and this because like talking to you, you can tell I'd talk to you for like another 8 hours.
Yeah, I can feel your passion through the screen.
Yeah. So like when I do these podcasts, like I love doing it because I just love telling the true story behind the book, because it's just like, I think things are now, I'm at the point in life where I think everything is already kind of mapped out for us. Like I think that everything's already planned, man. I think it's just like you just got to kind of let go and just kind of go with that, whatever that may be. And if you see a door open, don't be scared. Um, Walk through that door, because
Yeah.
it took a lot for me to do this, man. I'll tell you that. Not to write the book, but to do what I'm doing with you and podcasts and doing, that kind of thing, and having my face. I would much rather Jen, the author, do all this stuff, and I could just like talk to the paranormal team that comes by and just keep kind of in the shadows and be quiet and stuff. Um, but then again, it's just like I do have such a passion for it that it's not even like, when they say it's not like working a day in your, it's something, if you have a passion for something, it's not like you work a day in your life, you know what I mean?
Of course. Yeah.
And like I feel like this whole project could just like, I could just be working 15 hours a day just talking about this, and it's not like work. It's not like, because it's it's passion. So now of course you don't make any money from that.
The point
But
is,
that's a
it's
whole
bringing
different
happiness into
story.
your life, really. But
No, but
having having
it's
a passion
awesome.
fill
It's
your
not
day is
all about
great.
money. It's not all about money, but you know what I mean? It's like, I do want to sell this book. I want to make money from this, of course, right? I mean, how cool is it to have a book out? Man, that's awesome. So I'm so happy to be a part of something like this. It's just
Yeah.
it's fun, you know?
This paranormal world, it connects people, and for you, it offered you a new life, a new passion, really something to really get excited about, and that's why I resonated with you when I first started talking to you. And it's amazing that me and you are talking through the internet right now. And that's just one thing that's amazing. But I was brought up in a religious community that looked down upon these experiences, or they were seen as
Mhm.
impure, or anybody that has experienced things that they can't explain was seen as dirty or defective, all this
Yeah,
rubbish,
I
really.
get it.
And I spent much of my life hiding this horrible experience I had when I met this. I would love to know one day what this thing was. I met this entity, this old ancient entity, in this out of body experience I had when I was about 5 years old, following this accident. And this thing was horrific. It kind of, I came into contact with it, and I felt like I connected with the universe. It's like it showed me everything, and it was like an overload. It was like, imagine, like, I don't know, plugging like your phone into a ridiculously high electrical outlet. It would just explode with all the energy. Basically, it was almost like that. Basically, so I was almost overloaded with something. I don't know what it was,
Mhm.
and yeah, eventually I came back from this experience where I was near death basically. I came back and yeah, I got better physically, but this thing followed me for years. It would be there in my bedroom at night, and it was this dark creature with white eyes and kind of gnarly looking skin, and
Sounds like my wife.
on a bad sunbed, on a bad sunbed. But no, I'm
I'm
sure your
kidding.
wife is
Kidding,
lovely.
honey. Kidding, honey.
Yeah, yeah, this thing like harassed me for years. It affected the people that are around me. It affected their emotions, and like I didn't realize that this whole story was linked until one day. Yeah, a friend of mine helped me to fight this thing, get rid of this. But
Jeez.
my kind of short version of my story was, I was so scared to talk about it for years, and
Mhm.
I didn't want the stigma and the association. Like I was bullied severely at school.
Oh
For
man, sorry to hear
being this
that.
kind of character. No, it's okay. I mean, we all go through these things, though. But I
Yeah.
was bullied at school because whatever I contacted back then changed me. I was very different in the way that I spoke and the way that I saw the world and explained things and how I learned and all sorts. But yeah, but when I started to talk about this kind of stuff, when I thought it was only until like last year, 2 years, really, as I was about 38 when I started writing Paranormality. And yes, I started doing the beginnings of this podcast. For some reason, I woke up one day and I knew exactly what to do. Like, I'm not a trained writer. I don't know how
Mhm.
to do a podcast. Like, who the hell am I? I don't like speaking in public. I like it, just like you. I like being behind the scenes. I like
Yeah.
doing creative things, but I don't like being in front of a camera or talking.
Yeah.
But I literally changed overnight.
Well,
And
you're
I
doing
thought,
great, man.
finally,
You can tell. It's like the more you do this stuff, right, the better you get at it. Because, like I told
I
you, the first
appreciate it.
podcast I did, I was like, I didn't know what to say. I was so
You
nervous. I was like, I mean, but now
you're so
I
chilled.
feel a lot more
Yeah,
comfortable, in that. I mean, of course, I've met you before, so I feel a little more comfortable around you too. But even now, with the new people I meet, I seem to now feel a little bit more at ease of doing these. You know what I mean? Because
absolutely
it's
do.
just
But you
like,
believe in it, don't you? You believe in yourself.
yeah, as long as you believe in what you're doing and you have a passion for what you're doing, I think that stuff, like the polish and all that stuff that people want to see, it comes through eventually a little bit. So we're not so stiff and we're not so just nervous and we're not so, so yeah, man, like that's the thing. It's like people are never too old to do something that they're maybe afraid to do. If you want to do a podcast, why not just do it? But you have to do it.
Exactly.
That's the thing. You just have to do it. You can't just say I'm going to do it. You have to do it. Like
Exactly. Yeah.
and yeah, having a book, it's just like I I had to do it. I had that feeling like I had to do it, and we did it, and it's done, and here it is. It's just like it just goes to show you, it wasn't easy. It took a lot of hard work and effort and time
Yeah.
and research and but it's like I said, it came out pretty much exactly how I think it was supposed to come out. You know what I mean? So, um, anyway, you're never too old for real. And who cares what people think, man? Like I care way too much about what people think sometimes. So I'm trying to be like, who cares what people think? Because like, they're no different than we are, man. Who are they? They're
Yeah.
us, right? We're all the same, man. It's just like,
Yeah.
so I don't
No,
know.
that's the thing.
I just gotta not care what they think, and I don't care about what they think about this whole situation. If people don't believe what I say, that doesn't bother me because I know it's real because I live here and I've lived with this, and my wife experiences it. We've had other people experience it, so I don't even care about that anymore. Like, that's what I was first afraid of is people would be like, oh, just trying to sell a book, you liar, just like that's you
You're always
think
going
of
to
all
get
these
that
things
though.
that people
But
are going to say
yeah,
before they even like happen or and so you don't do it because you always create these scenarios and you're what if this happens, what if that happens. It's like sometimes you just got to do it and then figure it out because at least you get it done, and you know what I
yeah,
mean. So I don't know, it's just do it, whatever you want to do, just get it done, man. I'm not like a
absolutely.
motivational speaker, but it's so great when you actually can do something that you enjoy. Life is short. Like just find what you have a passion for and do it. it's, and figure out how to make money from it so you can, support yourself doing it. I mean, that's the dream, I would think, for everyone.
Yeah. If you can make a life from it though, and inspire some positivity, and like I
Yeah.
say, like I just feel really lucky to be speaking here to you, with you at this point, because like I say, it would have been a very hard thing to do, and I had to learn how to speak doing this, and it's this whole experience. When I came back, my brain worked much quicker than it did before. Like everything came out ultra fast. So, and I've been that way up till the last couple of years really, when I've learned how to speak properly, at least in a way that's people can understand, and it's still quite a struggle. So, it's like I say, overcoming. I would call it like a speech impediment. When you can't stop going so quickly, and people just have no idea what you're talking about. So, I mean, learning how to speak as well gives you confidence. And as you can hear, obviously, I've quite a strong Oxford accent. So, whilst trying to speak slowly, I'm also trying to be less Oxford, because I don't know if you heard Gandalf in Lord of the Rings, like the "You shall not pass."
Dude,
That's
there's
that's real
you're
Oxford. That
actually
is.
you're very clear, but there are a couple, man, who I've had that I've done podcasts with, from people from over there, and I'm like, I cannot understand. I'm like, excuse me. I'm
It
like,
takes a while.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, it's so wild, man. It's like we're speaking the same language, but it's just so different in the dialect and the how fast and the way you deliver and I'm just like, wait, so yeah, it's
Yeah.
cool though. I think it's interesting, man. I do my
You get used
best,
to it over time. Yeah, I'm still
Yeah.
not great at judging accent or guessing accents. Sorry, in across the UK, some of them like up north can be hard to guess. I mean, I love the Scottish accent. I mean, who doesn't really like, and the Irish, especially Northern Ireland. It's very kind of
Yeah.
warm, very kind of loving kind of accent.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I think it just makes me think. Yeah, watching Lord of the, I mean, I've been a big fan of Lord of the Rings. I'm not sure if you are though, but I
Oh
love
yeah,
the
absolutely.
films.
Love all those movies. Yeah, they're great.
Yes, yeah, Ian McKellen. Yeah, I actually saw him live. It was last year or the year before. Basically, we have these plays, which in the UK we call them pantos, like pantomimes, where they'll do kind of just silly plays before Christmas, and sometimes it'll be like Mother Goose, or sometimes it will be Jack and the Beanstalk and such. But
Hmm.
basically, had a treat. Ian McKellen was in one of the pantos playing Mother Goose herself, and he was in like in drag and dress and all that. He was amazing. Like considering he's in his 80s, he's doing like
Yeah.
physical comedy, like really
Yeah.
well. Like yeah, bless him. Like he's such a lovely guy. Yeah. Anyway, I save our viewers more longer unrelated conversations though. But thank you, Brian, or should I say
Yeah.
Patrick Bateman from
Yeah.
American Psycho again. That is such a good film. I absolutely love that film. He's such an intense character.
Patrick
It's so well
Bateman,
played.
and I get Jason Bateman. I get
Jason
Batman.
Bateman.
Uh, yeah, no. The only famous Bateman I'm related to is a Canadian wildlife painter named Robert Bateman. Yeah,
It's a
I don't.
memorable surname because, to be fair, coincidentally, like all the way through school, my maths teacher always called me Brian, and my legal name is Kieran. Nowadays I go by the name Stan anyway. My friends more call me that though, but so she knew my name was Kieran, but she always called me Brian. She just kept forgetting, and for 4 years it happened. And I got to the end of my school where I had to kind of complete my maths tests to pass on to the next school. I wasn't sure whether to put down Brian or Kieran, so she knew who it was. I kind of gave up. So at one point, I thought, okay, maybe I'm meant to be called Brian. I don't know, but
Hey, and my wife's name is Karen. My wife
ah,
is not Kieran, but Karen. Yeah, Brian and
interesting
Karen. So
coincidence.
now we got Brian and Kieran. Yeah, you never know, man. Maybe we can get married someday. Have a family of our own.
No, anything's possible. Yeah, we're always willing to extend the family. Now, honestly, I really appreciate you taking the time, Brian. It's been such a lovely evening watching this, and
Thank
yeah,
you.
let me know
Thank
if you get
you.
any interesting activity after this tonight, because
I
yeah,
will.
it's
Yeah.
not so much known, but during paranormal investigations or things that happen, I tend to act unwantingly as a battery. I tend to charge things up through conversation or just simply being there as well. So yeah, so stay tuned and let us know if you experience anything.
I'll let you know, and yeah, we'll see if any other people that were watching this today, if they experienced anything weird. I'm always curious to know if that happens as well, because I it may, who knows? I don't know. It's it's interesting for sure. I mean, when it happens once, yeah, when it happens twice, when it happens 3 times, when it happens 4, 5, 6, it's just like, okay, how many times does this have to happen? Like, because right now, again, on my Wi-Fi, I'm running at like 400 megabytes per second on Wi-Fi, and that's on my phone right now. And when I stream for podcasts now, I told you I go Ethernet, and I'm running almost a gig of speed, constantly, man. So, and the surface I use is stripped down to have almost nothing on it other than just a couple of apps that I use, and then for the podcast stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. And my wife doesn't have the problems on her stuff. Like, so I don't know if it's just I'm cursed or what.
I think that it's just energy surges, like things just happen, and I don't know how it works, but yeah, when things intensify, especially when I'm in circle sessions or doing like intense meditations, like gadgets will just we go weird. It's one of the weirdest things I'll say before I end the stream anyway. I did like a circle training years ago with this friend of mine. He's quite an advanced medium as well, and basically he said to me, okay, well, what happens is when I meditate, sometimes my alarm, there's like a radio alarm, like a digital one. He says it turns on when I do that. And I said, okay. I said, what's strange about that? He says it's not plugged in. And I said, are you sure? And I thought, okay, yes, I did a few sessions with him, and then yeah, we just finished our circle sessions. I looked over and I thought his alarm radio's on. It actually switched on and started playing music, and I checked, it was unplugged.
And it wasn't plugged in.
No, I can't explain that. Like it stayed on
Wow.
for about 2 or 3 minutes, then it just phased out, just fused out, like it kind of dimmed and went. And no
Wow,
explanation for
that's
that.
crazy. That would be wild to see that for sure.
Yeah. Like I say, I mean, I'm not. I know I sound a bit nuts anyway, though. But yeah, I'm a battery. I just seem to charge things up when I choose to connect. But anyway, we're
Well,
going to end the stream now. Anyway, we're going to get some rest anyway. But yeah, thank you, Brian. That was
yeah,
superb,
man.
and we'll stay in touch.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much, and we'll do it again someday.
Yeah, you enjoy the rest of your day, and yeah, I'm kind of jealous of your house. It's absolutely gorgeous, beautifully
Oh,
designed.
thank you,
And
man. One of these days I'll do a tour, and there's not going to be junk laying around everywhere. We're still finishing up some projects, so once it's all done, it'll be nice. So there won't be stuff laying around.
I didn't notice. It's fine.
Okay,
Thank
well,
you everybody for watching as well. Whoever's watched this today and taking the time out of the day. And like I say, follow this podcast. There are some very interesting things on the way, and which I've began to detail. But yeah, there's a lot more conversations, let's just say, lined up. So yeah, you take care, Brian, and everybody else. Have a lovely evening, morning, afternoon, whatever time of day is for you. Take care. Yeah, just stopping the stream now.